Hello, everyone, and welcome to Coffee and Conversations. This is part of the Women Up monthly series. I am Leslie Appleton Young. For those of you that may not know me, I am one of the co-founders of Women Up, along with Sarah Sudachan. I was CAR's chief economist for many, many years. I am now partly retired and living in Atlanta and working as a consultant chief economist for First MLS here in Georgia. So I'm still involved in the industry and so pleased to be able to look at what's going on in California with Women Up and all of the great things that are happening. So anyway, welcome, and please in the chat, would you please let us know where you're watching from so we can get an idea of kind of the depth and the breadth of the audience. The topic today is one that I don't think will be unfamiliar to anyone listening. It's essentially about work-life balance in the real estate industry. And there is a myth. I don't know if it's a myth or not. I'm going to ask our panelists about the flexibility of scheduling being a huge plus, but I want to look at all the dimensions of that with respect to being an independent contractor and being in the real estate industry. So the goal here is that at the end of our time together, you will come away with some tips, maybe some tech ideas, apps, ways to organize your day, difficult conversations to have with partners, just kind of the real deal on how to make a life and a career work. So with that, I would like to introduce my two wonderful panelists who again will be of no surprise or are not new to any of the Women Up community. And the first is Sarah Kosowski. She is the broker, associate, and manager of Coldwell Banker in Malibu, Pacific Palisades, Santa Monica, and Topanga. She has been in the industry for quite some time. She still looks very youthful, but she has a lot of experience under her belt and has been navigating this world for quite some time. And then I will also be introducing Jackie Soto. I feel like, Jackie, I've watched you grow up over all these years, and she is the broker of eHomes. She kind of understood the tech thing before most of the rest of us did, and has a company that is founded on the principles of using technology for greater efficiency and customer satisfaction. So let me just ask each of you, and Sarah, I'll start with you, and then Jackie, just a little bit more round out your bios for anything that might be relevant for our conversation today.
Yeah, sure. So you got it pretty right on, Leslie, and thank you. I like to say I grew up in the business because I literally did. My mom or is still a realtor. She actually is the one who got me into this business, but she started when I was about 7 years old. And so I saw firsthand from her how amazing this career can be and also how challenging balance can be. The only dessert to this day that I make well is chocolate chip cookies because I learned how to make them for her open houses. I
Oh,
wasn't able to use the oven, but I can mix them like no one else. So after that, I went into marketing, right? I tried to escape real estate, but it was in my blood. And so I've really worn basically every hat you can in this business, from building my own brokerage to selling it to going through some mergers and acquisitions and now managing this Coldwell Banker offices that I am lucky enough to have every day. On the personal side, I'm a working mom of two girls. So I live that kind of balancing act that we were mentioning every
right,
day.
right.
And that's really it about me right now.
Wonderful. It's wonderful to see you. Thank you
Too.
for being on the panel. And Jackie, what about you? Can you fill in a little bit more on your background?
Of course. I think I could have filled in Sarah's background and she could have filled in mine. So, fun fact, we're actually really close to each other here in the LA market. So,
Yes.
I am a fan that Sarah's on here with us and similar stories as far as growing up in the industry. Both of my parents in the industry pursued my career as an agent. And again, similar to her, I wore pretty much every hat. I started as a notary public and from notary public was like, hey, I start reading the documents, I start getting interested and start wondering like, hey, if that person can do it, maybe I can do it. That little spark of curiosity that never has left my brain has led me through my journey from notary to agent to team leader to founding my own brokerage to merging with my now business and life partner, Almer Morales. And with that, my personal life, very similar also. I have 3 children, 6 if we combine our blended family. So Brady Bunch out here in Chino
Awesome.
Hills, and yeah, just work-life balance. Not something that I believe in. I also believe it's a myth. I believe in integration. I believe in priority management more than anything. But yeah,
Yeah, well, we'll dive into that. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I'll say just one thing before we start. I'm so thrilled that we have this conversation. When I got into my career in the late 70s and into the 1980s, had my children in 1983 and 1987, there was no conversation about this. There was no support. You were off for 6 to 8 weeks, and then it was back in business, and you really didn't talk about your family. You really didn't kind of merge those two things. So the fact that here we are in 2025 having a conversation that you two are very familiar with and you're living it is a huge win, um, in my book. So I'd like to start with the myth of flexibility. You hear that women got involved in real estate because it allowed them to kind of take care of kids, but also sell real estate. And I'd like you each to kind of weigh in on, is that really true, and how are you doing it in the real estate business? And let me start with you, Jackie.
I'm already laughing. So, and it's funny because you're absolutely, that's exactly what I hear from most of my agents. It's time management. It's the flexibility of being able to pick up my kids from school and do the drop off and be involved and, leveraging my family life to integrate it with my real estate and build my career, which I do believe is possible, but I also do believe that it comes down to priority management, right? I think everyone has a different journey. I don't think everyone, even in our motherhood, even parenthood, even as a wife, maybe you don't have kids, um, even if you're single, we all have different journeys, right? And it's a matter of what is important, in my opinion, on that day, in that month. You have your core values, right? I have, and it's funny, you and my life partner were just talking about our priorities because we have the sports, we have our businesses, right? Not just one business, multiple businesses. We have a personal life, we have friends, we have family, and all of these things get put on a list where it's like, what is our main priority at that time? At the end
Now,
of the
do you
day,
have an actual list?
yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
and we reassess it. It's not going to be, I feel like it's not something that's stagnant, right? You have seasons. You have seasons of maybe opportunity that you really can't pass up. And then you always have kind of the core of the family that's never going to go away. That one will never
No.
go away. But I
Right.
think as outside of the family, you're going to have seasons of maybe sports, right? Like sports, kids are in sports at some point of their lives and not at other points of their lives, right? Or they grow into leaning to their education once they get into the college, right? Um, I just believe in being flexible with what the priority is, right? And really
Right.
staying
Right.
true to yourself as you gather and put together that list and choose what you are going to do that day, that week, that month, that quarter. You're planning it out based on the priorities at that season, at that point in time in your life. And everybody's journey is different.
And you're constantly reassessing and evaluating and making
Constantly.
mid-course corrections constantly. Yeah, that's where the
Constantly.
real flexibility comes in, right?
Right. I think a lot of times, and especially as women, like we feel this pressure of this outside pressure of this is what's important to you versus defining it for ourselves.
Yeah,
So really like going inward, what is important to you, right?
right, right. Sarah,
I love
What's
that,
your
Jackie,
take on
because
this flexibility thing?
well, we have to be masters of it. But Jackie, I love your point about seasons. You're 100% right, because what's urgent and important in 1 minute can be different from the next and then from the next week. And I think understanding the difference between urgency and importance is
Mhm.
key to setting your own priorities, right? When we talk about real estate, I mean, Jackie, you touched on it. How many times do I interview agents? Why are you getting into this business? Oh, because I want to set my own hours, because I want to be my own boss, right? And when we talk about that sort of flexibility, I really do think that that can be a myth, right? Because it blurs almost every boundary unless you're intentional about it. So having that uh, knowledge to go inside yourself and think about really what is it that is important to you in that time and where should your focus be is more of like how I like to talk about balance. Balance doesn't mean doing everything all at once, right? It means figuring out what's important to you in that moment and what takes precedence, and then putting other things secondary, tertiary, whatever that can be. And it's especially important for women, right? Because we're also often managing households, caregiving, like, and so all of the intensity of work-life balance, which again, I really do feel is a myth, that can feel doubled. And it's really important then also to have that other B word, like boundaries. I believe more in boundaries than in balance.
Mhm. I love that. And can we touch on community outside of the boundaries? It's really important, like this Women Up community, and having women that will support you in your journey wherever you are at, right? And support you after you've looked inward and said, hey, this is important to me. And this is the way that I want to run my,
Right.
well, I'm going to call it your life. It's not just your schedule, it's your life. And having women that can support that around you, that's huge.
Right, because you
Absolutely.
do, they understand, right? They do speak that language. They've had that experience.
Oh, yeah.
One of the things that I love to say, and I'm not the first person that said this, but just that the most important career decision you make is your partner. And I'd like you both to address that a little bit, because certainly having been on the that was a bad decision side of that, and this is the most amazing thing that's ever happened to me side, which luckily I'm in now. I'm living that. I'm so aware of how important that is. And I'd like you to talk just a little bit about what that looks like, and particularly, every survey that comes out says that women are still doing most of the household stuff. And is that something you navigate, accept, pay for someone else to do? Like, just in terms of the nitty gritty of running a household, how have you managed that? Let's start with you, Sarah.
Yeah, I mean, the answer is yes to all of that, Leslie. So I manage it as much as I can on myself. I hire and I ask for help. That's really something that I've learned in this career and just in motherhood and life that's important. It doesn't make you weak, it makes you stronger, right? So I met my husband in college. I got really lucky. He's incredible, so supportive and patient because I do forget things sometimes. I'll get a text in the middle of the day. It'll be like, hey, what's going on with our daughter's basketball practice later? And I will not have it on my calendar for some reason. Right. So having him there to kind of remind me of things and not be judgmental when I do forget is important. The next part of that is hiring people. It is not a secret. I am so grateful that I'm at a point where I was able to hire a nanny, right? And when she cancels it, that takes more flexibility. But hiring for your weaknesses or hiring for those gaps is important, not just in your business, but also at home.
Right.
Um, and then there's also, Jackie touched on it, it's also community. It's not just about having the right partner, although, I take nothing away from him. He's incredible. And I also add him, Leslie, to every group text where it's just a mom group on there. Like it's, hey, what are we doing for the classroom event? Like my husband will be on there. And he's like, why
Oh,
am I the only
that's awesome.
yeah.
Wow.
He's like, why am I the only man on here? I'm like, I don't know why, but you should be on there because it's important that you understand what's going on as well.
Right.
So that also comes from the community understanding that he is involved in our children's life the same way that I am. and he can organize play dates too, right? It doesn't all have to be through me.
Right. Right. You don't always have to be the go-to person,
Parent,
right?
the go-to parent. There's a
Right.
mother, there's a father,
Right.
both parents.
Right. Right. There are two of us.
Yeah, there are two of us, and we both are capable. All right. So
I know my daughter, Kelly just had a little baby boy about 9 months ago. And one of the pieces of advice that she got was do not become the expert on this baby. Do not, and sometimes that involves just accepting that it's going to look different and it's great.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
100%.
Jackie.
I have a different story here. This is one place where Sarah and I are a little different in our journey on our personal life.
Okay.
And I was a young mom. I was previously married, and nothing against him. It just didn't work out, right? I will say in my previous marriage, and just in the spirit of transparency, because I'm sure there's other women out there watching this, and I want you to hear this, did feel a little more constrained and less able to dream and build what I inherently like knew I was capable of. And after that, when you no longer have a partner and you're alone, you got 3 kids, I will say during that time, that curiosity that I tell you is a big part of my journey, just little by little, pursued that curiosity without boundaries or without constraints. And it was really, really liberating during that time of my life. And I know, Leslie, I met you during that time of my life. So when
Yes.
you saw me grow, that's the period of me blossoming that you saw really coming into my own. Again, nothing with my previous marriage, but it didn't work out and it didn't feel like it was where I wanted to be at in my life. Fast forward, I did, through this journey of curiosity and growing my business, run into in the industry. And I know you both know this too. And it's funny, I've never said this on a recording on a Zoom. I ran into my now life partner, Elmer Morales, and we started off as friends. And it's funny, we talk about calendars. The very first time we were going to meet, it wasn't on my calendar. And so I got a message and it said, oh, we had an appointment. And I said, well, you didn't send me a calendar, but it wasn't on my calendar. And if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't exist.
Right. Right.
So talking about scheduling and personal lives, he's grown into actually being much more on top of the calendar than I am through the journey. And I will say just having that partner on the other side that allows me to grow and supports my growth and like cheers you on and roots you on and whatever that means to me, right? Whether that's
Yeah.
personal life or business life is, I believe, just key to my happiness in general. When people are happy, they do good things, right?
Right.
So
Right. And they look beautiful.
they're
I mean, it's
smiling.
amazing what you can do when you don't have an anchor.
Right. Yes.
So I want to talk about boundaries. As women, I will just generalize and say most of us are not wired to say no. We are wired to say, yes, of course I can. Let me figure it out. I can squeeze you in, blah, 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 blah. And it just is a recipe for a meltdown. So, boundaries, and I think you've both said this at some point already in this conversation, boundaries are really important, but how do you do it? And can you give some examples of boundaries in your life that have maybe been super successful or hard to do? Or how is this whole you must be excellent at setting boundaries given what you both do professionally. So, Jackie, do you want to start?
Sure. And I didn't touch on the whole housekeeper thing,
Oh,
but that
yeah.
100% leverage what you need to leverage. It's
Yeah.
available to you, right? I don't
Yeah.
know what that looks like to the person on the other side of the screen, but I think that was one of my first puzzle pieces where even when we're talking about boundaries, even today, I have a boundary in my house where it's like, I'm not going to touch that right now. Like it's going to get done by my housekeeper. And those are
Right.
my own like mental boundaries where I'm trying to convince
Yeah.
myself that this is more important, right? And outside of myself, I will say boundaries are key also to this balance myth that we try to accomplish. Because if we are constant, and I've always said, what you're going to do is sometimes more important. What you don't do is sometimes more important for what you are going to do.
I love that. Yes.
And that will never leave my head after I learned that saying no is that powerful. It's going to lead me to what I actually want to say yes to, or what I want to accomplish. And then learning that no is a complete sentence. I think I learned that from Woman Up, if I'm being completely
I
honest.
remember saying that a few times.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And saying no has been, I don't know, it's just liberating, and it's like a muscle, right? And so the more that I've said no to things, the more I've been able to say yes to the things that, number one, feed my soul, number two, feed my business, feed my children. It becomes really well-rounded. I will say every now and then, specifically my personal life, I can get caught up with the children, right? You get that little like tug on your heart, and it's like, you get the mom guilt. I'm not going to lie about that. I don't think that ever goes away. And every now and then I will, accommodate. If I let that boundary gets crossed, it'll be very likely in my personal life with my children.
Yeah, that's a hard one. What about you, Sarah?
Well, I mean, I was not great at it. And it was early in my career. It was creating a lot of burnout. I had intense anxiety. Like it just, when I said yes to everything, it was about proving myself and pleasing other people, less about my own priorities and happiness. Right. And I think
Right.
that is a compromise that it's hard not to make early on, especially in this career. But if anyone can learn from me, set yourself up from the beginning, figure out what
Yeah.
your priority is, where you want to get to, and don't say yes to things that do not align with that. My older daughter, is the one who first like hammered it into me. And I think you guys have heard me talk about this before, but I was trying to respond to, it was text messages on my phone from agents. And I was also trying to have a cute little princess picnic with her. I think she was like 3 years old, maybe 4. And we're sitting in the yard and she's like, Mommy, when you're with me, only be with me. Right. And that was the mom guilt moment of like, oh, I need better boundaries because this isn't working. When I'm trying to be there for everyone, I'm really not showing up. So I really started to focus on when boundaries aren't about shutting people out, but they're more about setting yourself up and everyone else for success.
Right.
So communicating that up front, like I communicate my boundaries even with my daughters now they're older, and especially with my agents, right? After a certain
Right.
time at night, you're not going to get me. If it's an emergency, fine, right? But there are very
Yeah.
few real estate emergencies, if any. Um, my daughters and my husband during the middle of the day, they know that I'm probably not going to respond to that text message quickly unless it's an emergency.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. Call me if someone's bleeding.
Call me if someone's bleeding. I've got their elementary school is in my phone, right? The middle school is in my phone. So it's that. But I also relate that to agents because agents burn out really quickly because I don't think it's talked about as much, right? They're more focused on getting leads, getting appointments, selling those listings. And that is really sad. And for those agents, it's kind of like, do the same thing, reply to someone and say, hey, I care about you. I care about your message. Here's when I'll get back to you.
Right.
So,
I
Right.
love that idea of the expectation, not the idea, it's just setting expectations. Even jumping
Mhm.
on this call, my daughter, it's pickup time, and my mother-in-law, thank God, by the way, love my mother-in-law, shout out to Alba. But I made sure to let them know, hey, for the next hour, my phone's going to be off. I'm on Zoom, right? So
Yeah.
just setting those expectations up front, that's huge.
Right. And then people aren't surprised and they can
Mhm, mhm.
kind of deal with it. So I just want to add one little thing that's been important to me at this stage in my life is realizing that I've had to say no to a lot of wonderful things. It's not like the things that you are saying no to are the bad things and you're only saying no to the good things. The challenge is you are saying no to wonderful opportunities and spending time with wonderful people, and it all comes back to what you both talked about in the beginning, which is prioritization. You've got to figure out there's 24 hours in the day and you need time to breathe. Like what's that going to look like? So that's been a little bit of a learning experience for me to realize that I'm going to have to say no to some really great things so I can leave some time open for maybe some even better things. So what about tips and tricks? Time blocking. You've both mentioned calendars. I will say that I just bought one of these little timer things because
Oh my
I tend to
gosh.
get very scattered and, like I think there's always, and so I'll just set it to 50 minutes. And it's like for the next 50 minutes, you are going to write the script for your next FMLS video. And it works, it's just, it's because it's not my phone. It's just, so that's my tip from Leslie. But each of you, Sarah, anything in that area that might help other people?
Yeah, I mean, calendar, it's Jackie said it earlier. If it's not on my calendar, it doesn't happen. I've got a
Right.
personal calendar with my family stuff on it. I've got my work calendar as well. Um, Time blocking used to be like a dirty word to me until I reframed it as, blocking energy that isn't right for me in that time.
Yeah.
So I'll put time blocks in my calendar just for focused work. So maybe that's where I could use your timer, Leslie, because there's a lot of distraction everywhere, right? So if you're intentional about setting that timer or adhering to that time block in your calendar, then you're going to get a lot more done. There was also a really interesting, I can't remember if it was a podcast or like an article I read that talked about how much more productive you are when you are able to focus your brain on one task at a time. And an example that they gave was like if you ask someone to count to 10, right? They can count to 10 quickly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you say, do your ABCs, ABCD, right? Very quick. But if you ask someone to do 1A, 2B, right? Your brain has to switch back and forth, and it takes substantially more time to get to the number 10. And so that was a really interesting way for me of looking at it and saying, hey, this multitasking situation is not the best way to do time management.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you, because I worked for so many years in a world where I felt like value was correlated with how many emails were coming into your inbox and how much multitasking you could do. And you're right, your brain doesn't work that way. That's a myth, I think.
Well,
Anyway, Jackie.
You
I,
took most of them out of my mouth, so I had to think really hard for something unique. And this is coming from someone that has ADHD, so kind of a pro in multitasking. But I will agree, focus is everything. And for me, what's been key, and I always talk about this when we're talking about focus and scheduling, is a morning routine. Having my strong morning routine it'll set the tone, especially on a Monday, for the entire week, right? Because when I'm in my routine, I'm able to accomplish the task, especially if it's time blocking, right? Or whatever schedule I have
Right.
that day. If my morning is off, the rest of the day kind of can trickle off and go in different directions, right? So my morning routine is number one, a strong morning routine. The second one would be an app that I recently began to use. It's called Todoist. And it's really cool because I can just tell it like a to do and it'll add it to my calendar and it will roll over in my calendar every single day until it's done. And then my calendar
Wow.
is like this long. I'm like, I have to sit and do some of these things, right? So those are my two takeaways for.
Would you mind being a little more specific on what your morning routine looks like? Because I'm always
Sure.
fascinated on how people like put it together. Some are like yoga, herbal tea, and others of us are like coffee and soul cycle, So
We've done coffee and soul cycle, I
we
think.
did several times.
For me, it's any physical activity. It's been yoga for the longest time just to prepare my mindset. But if I can't make the class because of scheduling, say I have to get into the office by, say, 8 in the morning, and I'm not going to have time to go to yoga and then shower and be ready for a meeting, right, where I need to be presentable,
Right.
I will do a gym. I'll go to the gym. So as long as I get physical activity for 30 to 60 minutes, and then I sit down and do my meditation, breath work, journaling, some gratitude, and taking my kids to school when I have them is really important, where I don't touch my phone. And like that is my sacred time with them on the way to school, where we kind of set the
Oh,
tone for the day. And I
yeah.
do something that I also learned, a part of the Women Up community, Ginger said it. It's a dedicated 7 minutes with the kids. And this is nothing with scheduling, but you're talking about my routine. But I always remember this is, if you do it for 7 minutes, connect with someone for 7 minutes, give them your full attention. That 7 minutes will make them feel connected to you for at least a day. Like there's science
Yeah.
behind that. So I don't know,
Yes.
I'll focus on those 7 minutes and I'll go longer.
that's why every call you do with me, Jackie, is 7 minutes long.
That's my goal, And then we end up going to
That's what
the
she
gym
only
and
needs
you
one
feel good
timer.
about
She
it.
only needs
Yeah.
Oh, I absolutely love that. That's so beautiful. And it ties in, my whole thing about, active listening and listening to understand, not to respond, and all of that is so in your 7 minutes, to really connect with someone, you have to see them. And in order to see them, you have to receive.
Mhm.
So, Sarah.
I'm going to be completely transparent with you guys, right? I don't have a morning routine, and it's something like I've read Miracle Morning. I've been hearing about morning routines. It's just not me, right? I am and have always been like that woman who wants to sleep in as long as possible. I will never be on a 5 a.m. call of my own volition. And so it's my mornings are more about, let's get up, get the kids ready, either take them to school myself or my husband will take them. These days, it's more of a divide and conquer situation. And then I don't focus on any work though until they are dropped off and I'm at one of my offices. So in the car on the way, I guess it is a bit of a routine. I'll listen to a podcast, I'll listen to an audiobook. That's not when I'm doing my phone calls to catch up with people. That's just more about
Right.
time to energize my brain. But it's not a morning workout or intentional cup of tea on my patio. Although that sounds lovely and I've tried it, it just doesn't stick for me.
Sarah, I just want to absolve you of any guilt. You do have a morning routine and it's beautiful and it works for you. And having that dedicated time with your children, they do grow up and leave the nest. You don't get these years back. So just the fact that you are both so aware of that is really a beautiful thing. One of the questions I have, um, and this is a little longer than what you've both just been talking about, but could you just describe maybe a typical, atypical day so people can kind of get a feel for what this work-life balance looks like on a normal day-to-day basis? Sarah?
Sure. It starts the night before, which is why I care so much about my calendar because that's going to tell me where I need to be the next day. And
Sarah
then
has the nighttime routine. I have the morning routine.
yeah, well, because
Right, right.
I'm a night owl. Like I said, I will stay up as late as I can and sleep in as late as I can. It's just that's what my rhythm tends to be. But I'll look at my calendar for the next day. I'll have a moment after the kids go to bed to connect with Michael and say, like, hey, what do you have going on tomorrow? Okay, what do we need to get done? So it's kind of like a parent huddle, right? And then let's just let's say it's one of the days that I'm going to be in my Malibu office. I'll do drop off. I'll listen to some sort of podcast. I really love one called Diary of a CEO right now. It's incredible and I'm addicted to it. So it's Stephen Bartlett is the gentleman who runs that. So I'll listen to that. I'll get to the office. Probably I either do a contract class with the agents or I'll sometimes have the office meeting happening. Otherwise, I'll do some coaching sessions and that sort of thing. And then moving through the day, it just looks like either running through meetings, doing one-on-one coaching sessions with agents. There's a bit of recruiting in there too. And then it's afternoon and evening cheer, basketball, kid pickup, connecting with actual like other parents because that community is important to me as well. I need them, right? If I can't get to a place where one of my daughters really wants to go, they want to go to a birthday party, I'm going to need to know another mom or
Yeah.
dad who's going to be able to take them, who I trust, who will bring them there and treat them almost like their own. And so that like community safety net really is something that I rely on and it keeps me from burning out and it rescues me when those certain things, those last minute texts come in, right? So
So do you have at work an assistant or a whatever? I mean, you've got, your husband at home, you've got a community of of people with kids in the same grades and so on and so forth. But what about at work? Who is your support network at work?
Oh, sure. I have staff in each of my offices, and they're amazing people. I empower them to the greatest degree that I can to handle all of the things from the organizing office events to the, marketing questions, tech questions. So even if I can do it, it doesn't mean that it's the best use of my time. So
Right.
I will delegate, right? I can code a website, design graphics, I troubleshoot tech, but that doesn't mean I should.
Right.
And that's not the best thing for me to be doing. So I'll give that to staff. The other people who I do rely on is I rely on my agents sometimes, right? There are agents who've been with me for almost, my goodness, 20 years at this point.
Hard to
There's
believe.
there's trust that comes with that, right? You don't work with someone for nearly 2 decades without understanding some things about their life and them understanding yours. And that comes with a really beautiful level of being able to rely on these independent contractors sometimes to pick something up for you, mentor a brand new agent, right? Any broker, any manager who's walking a agent through every line of a residential purchase agreement, there's probably someone else who can be doing that,
Right.
right?
Right.
So it's really understanding that the people around you are there for you, and just to the same degree you're there for them.
Well, do you manage your own calendar? I mean, does everything that
Oh,
gets put in the calendar, is it from you or are other people involved in that? I didn't, it wasn't a joke.
no, it's a really good question because I would love it, and I've tried to have other people be in charge of my calendar. But the problem is with all of my different locations, sometimes those people don't understand the reality and the logistics of getting to different places. So I'll be booked
Right.
in Santa
Right.
Monica at
Right.
1, but I'll have an 11 a.m. in Malibu that's going to take me at least an hour and a half. It just won't work.
Right.
So I ask for calendar invites on things, then I look at it, make sure it makes sense, and either accept or decline it.
Got it. Yeah, I
Yeah.
told you we were doing tips here, so
Yeah.
I wanted
So
to be specific on that.
it is and it's like really, because how fun would it be just to have someone throw everything in there and my day runs perfectly? It just hasn't been the reality. So
Okay, thank you. Now, Jackie, we want to hear about kind of a typical day for you and then where your support centers are.
I laugh because I still don't, I think at this point in my career, I don't really have a typical day. And it's funny because even as an agent, I remember doing this exercise of, and I'm speaking to the agents on the call where it's, if you have an ideal, you need to have an ideal day. You're asking about the ideal day. And if you need to write down what is the ideal day and you're time blocking and you're going through your ideal day. And if whatever is not happening on that ideal day, for example, in my business, you're working in the business, right? Versus working on the business. Time blocking is when you're working on the business, meaning you're doing your marketing, you're doing, you're setting appointments, and if you're not working on your business, you're prospecting at that time. Anyway, but you'll get pulled in different directions, different appointments or different opportunities. Opportunities are still work, but they're not a part of your daily work, right? So if you're an agent out there, write out your ideal day, but take the opportunities as they come and do what Sarah said. And it's, I love what you said, Sarah, right now about really weighing if it's worth your time, if it, or delegating it.
Right.
I think a lot of times and sorry, I'll get into my answer in a sec, I promise, but I just love what you said, Sarah. I think we don't take the time to really quantify what our time is worth. And another exercise I did when I was an agent is I took my annual income, broke it down like, hey, if I had a full-time job, like what's my hourly wage, right? And if it was below that wage, I delegate it. Like that's what I would do. That's how I did it. And maybe there's
I
a
like
better way to
that.
do
No, I
that.
love that.
But now I laugh at
Very
my
smart.
typical schedule because in a perfect world, I do have a typical schedule and we have multiple offices just like Sarah does. And like on Mondays, it's a work from home day. I'm with my leadership team. On Tuesdays, today, I'm in my Downey office. Tomorrow I'll be Woodland Hills office. Thursday, I'll be at Newport office. And then Friday, I will be in Chino. So
Wow.
there's where I'm at. And then you have like conference weeks, right? You know this, Leslie, you have a conference week. So then that
Oh, yeah.
schedule out of whack. But conferences are important in your career if you're going to network and build relationships, right? Outside of that, you have kids' sports and what's going on with them. So when you talk about a typical day, I'm just going to give you, if I had a 9 to 5 and it was perfect, I'd be getting into the office, whichever office that is. And at this point, I'm hosting trainings, hosting onboardings. We have an onboarding week. When it's onboarding week, we're dark. So I don't have to be at all the offices. That's pretty damn great. But if we're not, see what I'm saying? When you say typical day, it's very difficult to explain this.
Right, right.
But a perfect day, I would be coming in and I'm meeting with agents still in our leadership team. Right now, a majority of my role is to build and scale. So I'm doing that with our leadership team. And that is a bunch of Zoom calls, a bunch of driving efficiency, being in the database, checking out our tech stack, doing even some accounting meeting with our CFO. So it's constant meetings
Yeah.
on Zoom for me. And outside of that, the one-to-one connection for recruiting or with our current agents retention, and kind of solving problems in that way.
So who in your company supports you? Is it
Oh,
everybody? Do you have someone managing you and your calendar? What does that look like? I kind of got what you've got going on at home, but what about at work?
I unfortunately wish I had someone to manage my calendar, but I don't still. And Sarah, I'm not gonna lie, I think it's a control thing, right? Where it's like, I
A
know
bit.
how I want to see my calendar. Will I allow, not allow, will I delegate every now and then? And like someone will send me, someone on staff, it'll be like, okay, send a calendar invite. Someone on staff will send a calendar invite. Our staff right now is about 27 individuals, including BAs. And my one dedicated individual, she runs most of the marketing, but she'll run the calendar within our org. So we work off of Google Business, G Suite. And so we have organizational units and whatnot. So when I need to get a calendar invite out to say our leadership team, she can send that, or to all staff, she can send that. And I can delegate that. But
Yeah.
I still manage most of my personal calendar, most of it.
Okay. All right. I want to switch gears just a little bit and talk about stress. And I've always felt that you can learn a lot more when people talk about the things that maybe didn't go so well. It's like the biggest failure is the biggest teacher and those kinds of things. And just in terms of stress, it happens. So I'm curious, is stress is like when you are stressed, do you hit a wall like cannot function? Or does someone need to tell you, hey, you're you're not doing too well. You should take the afternoon off. And once you're in that place, how do you get out of it?
I call Sarah.
So what? You call
Call
okay.
Sarah.
Yeah, we have Jackie and I are very close. I stalk her on Find My Friends, so I will know where she is at all times.
Right.
But do you want me to start, Jackie, or do you want to grab it?
Go for it.
Okay.
Go ahead,
Um,
Sarah.
so I I hit a wall, right? I truly believe that, and this is one of my weaknesses, is that both my family and my staff at work, like they would be terrified to tell me I need to slow down, right? I have my OA at one point told me like 2 years ago that I looked tired, and like he's never heard the end of it, right? So I have to be very, again, intentional about monitoring my energy, monitoring my stress, because I don't, if I get to that point where I hit a wall, that's when I get sick. That's when I am of no use to anyone, right? And then that becomes a miserable situation. My immune system goes down. Stress has a real impact on the body. And so I just have to take, sometimes when I feel myself, you feel it in your gut sometimes, or like I just start to feel a little bit drained. So I very intentionally slow down. Like I slow it down to more than is comfortable. Like it's almost painful. Like I'll speak at a slower pace. I will breathe before I respond to anything, even if it's not a deep question. But I really find by slowing that pace, it helps me regulate my system. Um, and that helps with stress. The other thing that I do to avoid stress is really try to decide what's noise and only control the controllable, right? I know I can't do everything. I know that there are some things, especially in this industry, that I can stress out about. I can stay up all night. I can wake up early in the morning, which I hate, right? And
Don't do it.
right, it would be of no use, right? We can stress out about things that we can have no impact on and will ultimately not matter in 5 months,
That's right.
5 years. So it's about understanding what that noise is and cutting it out, because that burnout for me will just sneak up when I don't make space to take the time to breathe. And I also, like, last point on this, I think as leaders, and Jackie, you do an amazing job of this. We need to model resilience, because just like when we get stressed out, we can offload that on the wrong person, right? And then sometimes that's our family.
The
Sometimes then
offloading part? Or
what?
is it the offloading part I do with you, or the
Oh,
resilience?
no, you're the resilient part, right? You do an amazing job of like making sure that you get to that yoga class, or that you go to a different office if one is maybe not going to serve your energy well that day, right? Um, so it's just about showing up as calm as possible. And because if you show up frantic, if I show up frantic, everyone around me, whether it's my kids, my agents, my staff, they absorb that energy. And that's not good for anyone. So,
No, no, yeah,
I love
excellent.
that. And I agree with you with the fact that we need to control what we can, because a big part of, I actually thrive with stress. And I think it's the ADHD in me. Like, you chase the problems to try to solve them. So I thrive under pressure. But where I struggle with stress, in all transparency, is when I can't control it, right? When it's not within my control. And that's been one of my bigger struggles. I think when I think back, there's been 2 points in my life where I couldn't control what was actually happening around me, but it was affecting my mindset, right? And I was really stressed out. And to be honest with you, simple answers, I went to therapy and I offloaded on my therapist, right? I got to talk to my therapist, in addition to my close circle of friends, right, that maybe have gone through similar situations, and I get perspective. Because a lot of times
Right,
what I'm
right.
lacking when I'm in the middle of it is perspective, because when you're in the storm, you can't see outside of it. So just getting perspective from other industry leaders like you, Leslie, who have been through so much, right? That has been powerful to get me out of whatever stressful situation I am, or at least just lift me up a little bit during the time, right? To know that there's light at the end of the tunnel is very, very powerful.
Right,
That hope.
right. Well, and the fact that you went into, therapy has been huge for me. And, my kids are both therapy kids. And I always say, like, look, you guys, at least in your adult life, you've known exactly what the issues were. You have a very huge toolkit, and you won't have to spend like 6 months in therapy trying to figure out what happened. You can go right to it. And they're both amazing. So I don't think anybody gets out of this alive. You really just, uh, gotta, I don't know what you guys were saying about the mid-course corrections, and just keep reevaluating and changing. I want to also spend just a few minutes talking about your attitudes and management of social media, because that certainly is something that we never would have talked about 20, 30 years ago. It wasn't a feature of the world, and now it's there, it's constant, and it's unavoidable, certainly in this industry. But if you could just each share kind of how you manage it, how you feel about that, and particularly with respect to your kids and family, how does that look for you? Jackie, do you want to start?
Sure. So social media, and you know this, Leslie, I used to love social media. I was like, and especially when I was in production, right? Production, I was one of the first agents in my market. And I'm going to say that, and I believe that because I didn't see videos like mine being done, but I was one of the first to launch like really luxurious videos with my average listings. And it was only being done on luxury at the time, but I felt like providing that type of service. So I would have social media everywhere, and I was about being transparent, and I would be sitting with a seller, and I could just pop out my phone and record a really authentic and genuine testimonial, right? That was my mindset back then, which it's not a bad thing to be transparent in that way. I don't think it's bad at all. I will say that I pulled back a lot just because, number one, my life is a little more boring now. Like, I'm on Zoom all day. Who wants to see this? But number two, I do believe that social media, putting too much, and I don't know how to say this politically correctly, but I think putting too much out there, there is a too much. There is a too much
There
where,
is, I love that. There is a too much.
yeah, and I couldn't tell you what that bar is. I can tell you that I've seen it and I felt it, right? Where it's like, maybe that's not the place for that. And I've seen it more as a strat for business on the business side. I've seen it more as a strategy of portraying who you really are, right? Like, what is your day-to-day with a level of transparency that isn't violating your family's like trust, or because I do have teens now, and these teens are like, let me see the picture first, right? Or like, I want to make sure that my friends, if they see it, is your profile private? They've asked me. My profile's not private. I have a public profile. Like, they're expecting these things now because kids are, especially my kids, they've grown up in the transition phase where social media was kind of just rising, right? And I have the confused children. I feel like, Sarah, yours are smaller, so they might understand that social media is maybe normal now. And I still have children that are in that transition phase. So for me, it's also just making sure that what they're looking at as their mother on there that's important to me. What my children see in me is important to me. What my clients see in me, that's important to me on social media. And then my agents, right? I can be better about like being professional and like getting professional video out here and like filming content and whatnot. I will say I can be better there, just as on a bit from a business standpoint. But other than that, just strategy while mixing in your personal and being as transparent as possible without violating anyone else's trust around you.
Beautiful. I love that. What about you, Sarah? Your kids are a
Yeah,
little
so
bit younger, but I'm sure the pressure's already there.
they are younger. My 11-year-old, some of her friends have social media. Some have had that for a while. It's not what my kids have,
And
right?
do your kids have phones? All your kids have phones and iPads? Do they all have screens?
My younger one has a Apple Watch, so I can track her. And so she can contact me. Like, she has to be on Wi-Fi and she can text and stuff. But my older one just got a phone this year because she's in middle school and I need her to be able to reach me if something goes wrong at pickup or something like that. But absolutely hard rule, no social media for them. I also have a rule that they do not send pictures to anyone, not their friends, no one. There's no pictures of them being texted from my older daughter's phone or from her iPad. Because that's terrifying to me. When it comes to my social media accounts, I have a private account and I have a public account. My public account is really just business stuff, nothing about my kids on there. You won't see their faces on there. You probably won't see my husband on there either. I mean, unless he's at an industry event with me, which he's a good sport and comes to sometimes.
Yeah.
But my private account, I also try and be as discretionary as possible in how often I post my kids' faces. You'll see the backs of them a lot. Um, it started out it's actually become a really fun family tradition. And they do what they call their iconic pose. It's them facing away, holding hands, right? You
Oh, I
don't see
love
that. And
that.
it's really, it started off as, I don't want their faces on my social media, but then it just became fun to take that same picture of them as they grew up. So that really, the idea behind it was safety. And now it's just fun and a nice little ritual that we have. As far as agents using it or anyone in the real estate industry, I look at my public facing Instagram and Facebook, and I'm on whatever TikTok, but I don't use it, right? But mainly Instagram as what you would have put on your website 10 years ago, right? It's almost like your work portfolio there. Because what I've noticed is a lot of our consumers and agents and everyone, like, instead of going and searching online and Googling someone's name, they're going to Instagram and searching your profile that way. So it's almost like that first touch point for you with a client or a potential new agent joining your office.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I
it's scary, and because especially with agents, I can't find the line of what's authentic and what isn't. I just saw this gentleman, he put out a video of like him portraying what real estate agents do on social media. And he's like going through this home. He's like, it's not even my listing. I'm going to film this video. And like, I'm caressing the countertops. Did you see that video?
Yeah.
It's hilarious, but it's true. It's like, you don't, even though it's your resume, sometimes you don't even know what is real and what is not on there. And I think that's a big part of why I don't hire professional videographers, because I'm like, it's just too fake. I want the real stuff on there.
Yeah.
Well, it also sounds like the agents are getting contacted from consumers from all over the place, right? It's not necessarily that they're going on online, they're going on Instagram, they're going on TikTok, they're whatever it is, you know, that these connections are being made that are would never have been made 5 or 10 years ago.
Yeah,
I
but
would
I would
say
think
also,
connections also for the right reasons, right? Like I
Yeah.
don't necessarily want a consumer to contact me because I'm doing this fancy TikTok dance trend. Like I want them
Oh,
to
well,
contact
I
me
meant real
for,
estate TikTok, but to your point.
I want them to contact me
Yeah,
because, you know, they saw that I recently, you know, accomplished whatever value I can put out, right? Something of
right,
value
right.
that they recognized in me, and that's why they're contacting me.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I think though, like I think of Instagram and social media the same way that I thought about websites versus magazines about 10 years ago, right? I think you had to be in print ads to do well in your real estate business here in Los Angeles, right? You were doing print ads, you were in the newspapers, you were all over the place. And then it was, do you have a website? And oh my goodness, you have to have a website. Otherwise,
Right,
no one's
right.
going to work with you. And now I think people are less and less relying on print, right? We know this. Like, I don't get my information from Homes and Land. I shouldn't
I
say certain
remember the
names.
Coldwell Banker
Right.
Sunday magazine
Right. So like,
back
but
in the day.
now it's more like the website is what a magazine used to be. And Instagram and social media channels to me are what websites used to be. It's just
Yeah,
all moved one step forward. And I'm sure next year we're going to be saying that, you know, AI is this and whatever social media used to be is totally different. But I agree with you, Jackie. Like, I don't want anyone contacting me or my agents because I do a cool lip sync or dance, right? But I think it's also about understanding where your audience is. And if you're spending your time on social media, remember that the people who work with you tend to be a bit like you. And so if you're not there and showing up where they are, then they might contact someone else, right? And if you don't mind that happening, I'm not saying you, Jackie, but if you, Mr. Agent, don't mind that and you don't want to be on social, then that's fine. But you've got to figure out a different way of getting out there and in front of your clients.
Well, there's so many different ways.
Yes.
There's so
And
many
you
different
know,
ways to
yeah,
provide value and connect.
yeah.
you know, all of a sudden I'm the going to be the expert on, you know, Atlanta real estate. And I'm like, and so I just went to all of these agent websites and agent podcasts and a wealth of information. I mean, I want to tell you, I was just very impressed with kind of the level of analysis and understanding, and it was a great educational experience for me. So some of them are really doing it right. So interesting.
And
So we're going to have to start wrapping things up, and I want to be respectful of everybody's time, but just kind of ask you if you would have just a piece of advice or two for other women, particularly women with, you know, real estate careers and kids, who are trying to kind of make it all work and balance it all together. Do you have any like kind of parting thoughts that you'd like to share? Either one can start.
are you looking at me?
Jackie, you want to go? I feel like I just keep popping.
No, you can start. I love when you start.
So, I mean, mine would be that, and I think we've talked about it, all three of us, right? That this whole work life, I'm not going to say balance, but work life integration isn't about perfection, but it's more about what our intention is with it. And so, the way to start with that to me is by setting just one small new boundary or putting in one new system, downloading one app that's going to help you get where you want to be, making one more connection. And then once you start doing that, that compounding effect is really huge. So that to me would be my one tip is like figure out how to start and just do one small thing.
Right,
I
right. One
Then,
small step and you start adding them all together and you get somewhere.
mhm.
Yeah.
I would say
Jackie.
I would say for me, just start with going inward and really defining what is important to you. Maybe sit with your partner, maybe sit with your family and really design what are your core values, your core priorities to set your schedule for the rest. And I would do even quarterly meetings, like start scheduling that with your family or your life partner and make sure that you're all in alignment with what the focus is during that season of your life, wherever it is that you're at.
I love that.
Thank you both so much. I want to just summarize, first of all, to give all the people that you love their full 7 minutes, right, on a regular basis. So you really, really see and connect each other. But I think just one of the themes that ran through the whole conversation was this idea of figuring out what's important, and what the priorities are. And nobody can do that but you. It's a very important inward journey, and it's not easy and it changes over time. But when you're at a point where you're comfortable in your own skin and you're comfortable with the life that you are creating with a number of really fabulous people that you've brought into your life and created your family, it's just a wonderful thing, and it's very possible, it's very doable, but you just have to get honest and figure out who you are. So anyway, with that, you guys are fabulous. I feel like a mother hen here looking at you two and just being so proud of the professionals that you are and the women that you are and the mothers that you are. So thank you. Thank you, Jackie, and thank you, Sarah, and thank you to the Women Up community for joining us today. It's been a real joy. Till next time.